Hi, I'm Rebecca and welcome to episode 14 of the Creabea Knitting Podcast. So hello and welcome back. As I said, my name is Rebecca. I am a crafter based in Edinburgh and this is a knitting podcast where I talk all about what I've been knitting on, what I'm currently knitting on, what I'd like to be knitting on. And there's usually some yarny goodness, and as no surprise to anyone who's been here before, that is no exception. There are some acquisitions today. It's a lovely bright day. It's the sun is streaming in, and I'm probably gonna roast in this jumper. And spring feels like it might be coming back to Scotland. We'll see. So today I've got a lot to show. I always have a lot to show. I've got, 2 finished objects, 5 works in progress, and some acquisitions, including my acquisitions from the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase that I went to last weekend. And of course I came back with a bag of goodies because I think it was 2 episodes ago somebody left a comment that got loads and loads of likes, and they said everyone knows that yarn bought at a festival doesn't count, and I agree with that, doesn't count. So yeah, I came back with lots. And yeah, I'm in a really good place with my knitting right now. I'm feeling a bit obsessive with my knitting. I don't want to do anything else other than knit. But hey, that's okay, that's fine. That's okay. So let's start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing my sweater number 18, which was a finished object last time, I think. This is a pattern by My Favourite Things Knitwear. It's kind of like a boxy, kind of oversized 80s-esque drop shoulder sweater with a lot of texture. It's got a folded neckline, and I think it's really, really clever because this whole patterning is just done with knits and purls, in like a repeat, which I just think is, really clever. I think it's really, really well done. The sleeves, the body blocked out really well. The sleeves are still kind of like bouncy. I don't know, like ribbed almost, like you can see here. I don't know if you can tell. And for some reason I keep rolling this cuff up. Like it doesn't need to be rolled, but I just keep doing it. I don't know why. It feels a bit strange, but I knit this in 2 strands of Woolyknit British wool in the colourway Harvest, which I bought last year in the Black Friday sale, and a strand of Sandnesgarn Tynn silk mohair. I don't know why I almost got that wrong. In the colourway Ochre, which I think is getting discontinued. But yeah, it's like a beautiful, like this colour is insane. It's so cool. It's like, it's yellow, it's golden. I kind of think, get real close here, like it's kind of not far off my eye colour. So my eyes are more greeny, but I just think like it's quite a cool colour, and I think it suits my colouring. I have no idea how to wear this. I just keep wearing it around the house. I'm not a big jeans wearer. I wear a lot of skirts and dresses, so I think I need to put some effort into like styling it with the things I wear often, because I really like the jumper. And yeah, I think I made the 2nd size. The pattern originally calls for as a lot of I think a lot of like current modern patterns do, a lot of positive ease, like 20 plus centimetres. And I think I maybe have 8 or 10. So I made a smaller size than recommended, but I like the fit of this. I think it's quite a flattering fit. And yeah, that's what I'm wearing. I did this part of the cone along, which finished, and all bar 1 of the cones prizes have been sent off. And ironically, like I put all of the ones that were going in the post the day after the cone along finished, like the day after I drew the prizes, which was I think 2 weeks ago. And one of the winners lives within walking distance of my house, which is very cool. Like I thought it was very cool that some of them were being shipped as far as Canada and some were being shipped to, well, not being shipped. But the poor winner, she lives 20 minutes from me and I've not taken it to her yet. So this afternoon, such a nice day, I'm going to go and edit in a cafe, and I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to take the cone to her. But yeah, that's what I'm wearing. So finished objects, I have 2 let me jump straight in. So the first one is also a My Favourite Things knitwear pattern. It is the Cardigan number 7. This knit itself, like it knit up so quickly. Look at that, it's so cute. So this is the Cardigan number 7. It's a super plain like raglan cardigan. The gauge is 14 stitches per 10 centimeters, so it knits up insanely fast. And yeah, this is like proper springtime lilac colour. I mean, I think it's finished. It's wash blocked, ends woven in. There are no buttons. I've not bought buttons for it yet. I might buy buttons today as well, actually, if I can find them. I really would just like, I've got some shell buttons which I could use, but I really want purple ones, like the same colour of lilac. I think like chunky plastic ones that are lilac would look really cool. And I bought this entirely because I had dress fabric that I thought would go well with this. And the dress, I made the dress, but the skirt is too long, so it's sitting in my like next to my sewing machines waiting to be altered to shorten the skirt. So yeah, I've still not worn that or this anywhere other than around my house. And I mean, mostly I love it. A couple of notes. So the first one is the yarn I used. I used Holst Cielo, which is, sorry about the drilling, I'm just going to keep going. Hopefully they won't keep drilling. See, they stopped. The yarn is Holst Cielo, which is a alpaca, wool and polyamide blend. It's kind of similar to a blown, I'd show it, but I used up almost every scrap of this yarn. It is kind of similar to a blown yarn, except instead of being like a casing with fibre blown through, it's an I-cord construction. And it's super, super fluffy, and it's still very lightweight. I think it's 125 meters per 50 grams. Yeah, I think that's everything. I used this to make my badger in bloom earlier in the year, and I was so impressed with that I decided I had to use it again, and so I ordered this one. And this is where, okay, this is my fault entirely. The pattern yardage is perfect, but when I made this cardigan before in Drops Air, and I think I wore that 2 episodes ago, and I used 4.5 skeins of yarn, which is nothing. Like honestly, 4.5 skeins. So I ordered the equivalent amount of yarn in this yellow as I'd used for the drops. So I didn't go and order the required yardage. I ordered 5 skeins, which is I think like 750 meters. So I should not be surprised that I ran out of yarn, obviously, but I ran out of yarn. So it's probably a bit more cropped. It's not a disaster. I think another like half a skein would have been perfect. But it is quite a bit shorter. Like you can see the distance under the arm, like it hits me bang in the waist, and the sleeves are really like this length, like I guess it's kind of bracelet length, maybe it's slightly shorter than bracelet length. I think for springtime and wearing with dresses it works perfectly. But yeah, I probably should have had another, and if I was to make it again I would have made it with, I'd have just ordered another skein of yarn. But also with Holst, their shipping is not that expensive, it's like £6, but it takes like 3 weeks, that's 6 weeks, it takes maybe like a week to 10 days. So I would have ended up paying the same again in the equivalent of 2 and a bit balls on one ball, and it was going to take another week to arrive. So I was lazy and I just finished the cardigan. And I was playing so much yarn chicken, the stress was not, I would not recommend. I have a tiny nugget left, which is just going to be enough to sew on my buttons. And one thing I will say, the pattern is designed to have a lot of positive ease, which hides the fact that there's no shaping, so there are no short rows. Yeah, I think it would benefit from short rows. And I think knowing what I know now, I think I'll make this pattern again because I do love it. I think it's a really simple, straightforward construction, which I appreciate and which I like to wear. But I do think, provided I make it next time with enough yardage, I would make it with short rows. That's the word I was looking for. I just add in short rows because yeah, the back just sits like this much higher than the front and it's just annoying. So yeah, that's my first finished object. I think this colour is amazing. I think it's going to be so good for spring. I also ordered some more fabric. I've just got fabric coming up my ears right now. I need to do some sewing. Yes, but I just want to knit all the time. But I ordered this like cream fabric with like a ditzy print of lilac flowers, and I think it's like a wrap dress. I'm gonna wear this for a wrap dress. I'm gonna look like a springtime. I'm gonna look amazing. If I do say so myself. Yeah, that fabric should have arrived today and it did not arrive. Anyways, that is my first finished object. So cardigan number 7 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. A little bit too small, but well, too short. In Holstgarn Cielo, which is a yarn that's amazing. They did a good Black Friday sale last year, and I'm pretty sure if they were to do it again this year, like that's what I'd buy. I'd buy like a sweater's quantity of that because it's not super expensive. I think it's maybe like £5-ish a ball, £5.50. But yeah, I would stock up on that because I think it's a really good yarn. Talking of really good yarn, my next finished object, I didn't think I'd have it finished actually. I always start like mentally planning. I never really plan the podcast, but when I go to knit night every Monday, and on my walk to knit night, in the in-between week, so like next week when I'm not filming, I will not think about the podcast, but the next week when it's the Monday, and I usually film on a Thursday, probably on a Friday today, but normally I'll start mentally planning the next podcast, like what will I say? And I always surprise myself that by the time the actual recording comes around, I've done so much more knitting because it's like 4 days more knitting. So I didn't plan to have this finished when I was mentally planning the podcast, but I have got it finished. So I just see my swatch. Let me get my swatch. I got it. So this is, do I have a label? I do have a label. This yarn is from Gullet Farm, which is a brand new yarn producer based in the UK. They've not started selling their yarn yet, but they did a collaboration, I think last year, with a dyer called Telling Yarns, and then I bought a skein of that collaboration yarn at Unravel, and I thought it was amazing. And then a viewer of the podcast said, did you know you can sign up for the newsletter and they're sending some samples and you can try some of the yarn? So I did that and they sent me some samples. I think this wasn't, I mean it's technically gifted, but it wasn't like I've got a following, so I was gifted to talk about it. Like I know a lot of people have been sent samples. So I did nothing special other than fill in a form and ask some questions about where the yarn came from. So I don't think they've got a release date just yet, but I will be buying some of this when they do get released. So they sent me 4 skeins, and this was a sample of the 4 skeins and a very poorly done garter stitch swatch. So there's like a natural, an oatmeal, a grey and a black. It's like a brown black, right? My boyfriend has a jumper this colour, and he tells me every day it's grey, and it's not grey, it's black. Well, it's brown. But yeah, so these are the 4, and I wanted to do something simple and squishy. Like I honestly just want to be wrapped up in this yarn because I just wanted it around me. And so I looked for a shawl pattern. I'm not really a shawl wearer, but I said, I talked about it last episode, I think, where I said I just want something to wrap around me, like a kind of blanket vibe when I'm maybe at the office, like sitting at my desk or cozying up on the sofa and I'm a bit chilly, just feels to wrap it around me. So I made the Ozetta, the Winter Tales. Oh, I blocked this and just pulled it off the blocking mat, and I did not realise how much it evened it all out. I'm so happy. I made the Winter Tales blanket shawl by Ozetta. It is an uber simple pattern. I think if you've done shawls before, you could make it up because it was just like, it was so straightforward. But what I did is I didn't fade, like let's not pretend I did a fade, but what I did do is I kind of gradually went from one colour to the next. It's very obvious where I went from colour to colour, but I'm fine with it. So I'm going to hold it up a little bit and then I'll wrap it around me. This is what it looks like. So here is like the creamy oatmeal colour, and there's like a soft-ish transition, and it goes down to like this, yeah, then it's the grey, and then it's the black brown. It's kind of like is that called a trapezoid? It goes down to like this shape at the bottom. And what I wanted to do was basically just knit. My gauge was off. I did my swatch and I liked the fabric it made, and this was like a 4.5mm needle, and I got 18 stitches per 10 centimeters, and the pattern called for 16, but I was like, I don't care. Like, I like this fabric, I'm just gonna follow the pattern. And I'm just gonna follow the pattern, and because I like the fabric it made, and I'm really happy I did. I think this, like, this one is particularly, you can see like this yarn is a bit thinner, but like this, I'm fine with it as well. Like, I don't mind that it's thinner, but yeah, this is like perfect. This is a good, like, it's drapey, but it's still cozy. So what did I do for this, like, semi fade? I mean, it is kind of a fade. It's obviously quite obvious in some places, like it's not a real fade, but I do like the striping effect that it made. I followed a blog post by Labienne, which somebody recommended to me, and I believe, like, in the blog post, they say it's the same fade as the Find Your Fade by Andrea Mowry. So 16 stitch repeat, so it's like 2 2 2 4 2 2 4 2 knit, something like that. I just wanted to get as much out of every single one of the skeins as possible. They were I believe 2 of them were 200 meters, one was 190, one was 160. So I had like around about 800 meters, and that's what the pattern called for, 800 meters. So I just decided to just knit until I could. And what I did was I had a scale beside me, and I knew the fade would be 8 stitches. So I was basically weighing, like knitting and weighing how much yarn I needed for 8 rows. And then I was knitting until I had that much left, and then I was doing the fade, and then I was moving to the next colour. That worked pretty well. Yeah, that was pretty good. And I find this really engaging, like knitting until the fade. I find that really engaging. So you increase here, and then what I did was I basically knit until this one ran out, and then I knit the same number of stitches on the other side, and then I started the decreasing. And so what I really loved about this was, like, each different yarn has a real different character. And I was thinking about this on the way home from my knit night. Like, so I enjoy all my knitting, but sometimes you knit something and it is like joyous. Like, it just makes you happy. I don't know if anyone else has this. The first time I had it was making my very first no frill sweater in the Woolyknit yarn. Like, something about it, like the simplicity of the pattern, that you just could appreciate like every little bit of the yarn. I devoured it. Like, I loved it. It's almost like when you get to a good book and you wish there were 100 more pages. Like, that's kind of how I felt about knitting with that project, and this was exactly the same. And I mean, I went on to then knit 2 more no frill sweaters and to use a lot of Woolyknit British wool. So clearly it's like had a lasting effect on me. And this was exactly that. Like, I wanted to slow it down so that I could enjoy it more, but I just kept knitting because I loved it so much. So this one, I love the colour. I would completely have a sweater in this. And I have a little tiny nugget of that one left. Like, very tiny nugget. This next one was the thickest, so it's the one that's 160 meters, and this is stunning. Like, I kind of want a whole shawl in this. This is the oatmeal colour, and it's just really squishy. This grey has got like a beautiful variegation, and I completely ran out of this one. I had to split splice together. Yeah, somewhere here. I had to split slice my 2 yarns together. Right there, you can see it. I have about this much left of the grey, and then this last one was it's not, you can see it's definitely like, it's come up at a looser gauge than the others, but it is by far the softest. It is so incredibly soft, and I have quite a lot of this left. I don't really know why, but that's okay, because the sweater that my boyfriend has that's the same colour has got a hole in it, and he asked me to repair it. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to repair it, and it's quite good to have some of this left because it's a bit darker than his sweater, but mostly the same, so I'll use this to repair it. And so yeah, I'm going to melt if I put this on right now, but I will put it on to showcase the squish. So like this, okay, how to describe this? This bit, like this base V, basically like just covers my bum. Like, that's where like so if I have it wrapped around me, it goes down to there, and I think that's perfect. It really makes you feel like you're properly like enveloped in it. So how was I kind of wore something like this the other day. Get my hair out. To wash my hair desperately. So yeah, it doesn't really go with my bright yellow jumper, but this is it, and I've been kind of just wrapping it like this around me. Yay! I like hinge like this, but yeah, so that's this. I'm really happy with it. I have some yarn which I got from Mega in our swap box, which is Knit Picks Eco worsted weight, and they're kind of similar to these two colours, so I'm thinking of making another one, which I may or may not give to my mum, depending on how much I like it. My original idea was to give it to my mum, but I just love this being wrapped up in this so much that I want another one for myself, even though why do I need two? But I know that she sometimes watches the podcast when she's at work. So if you're watching this, mum, don't set your heart on it just in case I decide not to give it to you. And I was also, I'm exposing myself here. I was like wrapping this and like tying this behind my back and then walking around the flat and pretending that I was Claire Fraser from Outlander. Yay. So that is my shawl. It's the first shawl I've ever done for myself. I can see the appeal, but I'm not super fussed about making any, like, there's some amazing like lace work shawls and stuff. Like, I don't see the desire for that. I just want to be cut, like, wrapped up in squish. So if I make more shawls, I think my focus will be like, how do I wrap myself up in squishiness? Because I like it so much. So yeah, Gullet Farm yarns, not released yet. But I'll try and go back and check and make sure to mention on the podcast when they release. And I will definitely, I'm interested to see what their lines will be that they're produced, but I think one of these two I'd be really eager to get some more of. Maybe a spicy one. Oh, okay. Goodness. Okay, I'll just chuck that straight to my chair so that I can wrap myself up in it later. Okay. Take a quick water break and then we can go into works in progress. Works in progress, I have 5. Because of course I have 5. 2 you've seen before and 3 are new. So let's start with the ones that you've seen before. The first one is me slowly but surely making progress on the first sweater by Lizzie of Hive Knits. I've done a sleeve, ladies and gentlemen, we have a sleeve. So this colour like always blows out a little bit, so I'll pop a picture up of what it actually looks like the true teal, oh, funny hiccups, the true teal blue of it, because I think it's stunning. Last time I'd finished the body, and since then I've knit a sleeve. The sleeves are done in half fisherman's rib, and so you are recommended to knit one sleeve and then block the sweater and then block the sleeve to the right measurements. Because it's a real, like, this is just like the squishiest, stretchiest fabric. And so you block that one out to where it's got to be. This drilling is really annoying me. You block the sleeve out to the length that you would like to wear it at, and then it springs back a little bit, but not so much. So yeah, now I just need to block the sleeve, and I love knitting half fisherman's rib. I will say I lose track of where I am, and I've 100% made some mistakes. And I don't know, like, if they're tension mistakes or if I've just knit them wrong. I think it's more likely I've knit them wrong. Because of the way it works, like, one row you knit purl and then one row you knit into the stitch below, and I think sometimes on the stitch below I just got a bit confused. And I think I can't tell with, like, the row where I picked up, like, I knit the stitch with the yoke and then I picked up the sleeves to knit the sleeves. I can kind of see that row. But I'm not sure if that's just because of where it was, it pulled, if the sleeve pulled a little bit, or if it's a tension thing, or if it's I got the wrong stitch thing. But it's fine. And I just think this is like the most aesthetically pleasing, like, this big giant sleeve into this little tiny cuff. Obviously this cuff is still really small, but like, oh, look at that, it's gonna look so cool. So I'm gonna get this blocked this weekend. This, I don't know, I think it's because it's getting warmer. Like, I just lost a lot of steam in this pattern. It's so much fun. Like, I really love knitting the half, especially now the body's done. Like, the half fisherman's rib is so much fun and I'm really enjoying it. At the same time, I keep picking up other projects, but the podcast is keeping me on track because I'm quite eager to have something to show every time. And so I got this sleeve done since last time, and so I'll get the last sleeve done by next time. So this will be finished object next time, which is amazing because it's beautiful and I want to be able to wear it. This is a very similar yarn combination to this. It is 2 strands of Woolyknit. I've got some of the yarn here actually in the colourway Mallard, which is this like petrol blue green. and a strand of Filcolana Tilia in the colourway Midnight Sun. Or just Midnight? I can't remember. But they've been amazing. Like I think the yarn combination works so well because the core fabric is kind of like paler, but the halo is this dark blue, and especially for this big textured sleeve, I think it just looks amazing. So yeah, that is the first sweater. We're close to the finish line on this one, and I finished the sleeve like 3 days ago, but I was waiting to show on the podcast before I blocked it in case it didn't dry. So I will chuck it over towards my sink so that I can remember to block it later. Okay, my second work in progress you've also seen it is my gift knit. Now I will say I stole my needles from this to start another project yesterday, and I've ordered new needles but they've not arrived yet, so it looks a bit funny. But this is a gift knit. My very knitworthy stepdad has a big birthday coming up in May. Hopefully not in March, or I've missed the deadline, in May. And I'm making him a sweater for his birthday. I've made him quite a few pairs of socks before. He's a very knitworthy person, and he definitely deserves all the knitted things. And so I asked him kind of what he would be. I kind of like said, I'm gonna make you a sweater. Like, what would you like? And I thought like maybe like a Gansey style, or like a cable knit, or like a plain, or like a zipper. I don't know. Gave him lots of options, and he wanted a colourwork sweater. So we're going for a colourwork sweater. I'm using the Strange Brew pattern by Tynn Knit, and it is amazing. It's more like, it's like an instruction manual, not just a pattern. It has it basically gives you all the stitch counts for a colourwork yoke sweater from baby 0 months to men's 4XL in a DK, a sock, and an Aran weight gauge. It's amazing. It's really interesting. It's a really cool book. My stitch counts worked out really well. I don't know if I've just got lucky with my stitch counts, or if it's just that it works well to like traditional motifs. And I did not. There's an ebook. I didn't get the ebook, not on purpose. I just didn't realize that there was an ebook, and so I just had a pattern. And the ebook has a whole. I think it has like a lot of stitch patterns. I didn't get that. What I have instead is I just stole the colourwork design from another pattern, which is the Marit cardigan, which is a pattern I think was in Lina magazine. So here it is. Ta-da! So I'm really happy with it. I'm really, really, really pleased with it. It's making good progress. I have like 4.5 weeks to go. So I'd like to basically finish the body probably pretty soon. My goal was to have a week's buffer and then a week for each of the sleeves. So like backwards planning, I think I've got like 10 days to finish the body. And my goal was to do an inch on the body every day. I think the body is now, it had to be 18 inches. I got him to measure one of his favourite sweaters, and the body of that is 18. So I just need to, I think I've done 6. So yeah, 12-ish less to go. And I calculated it. I measured just after I'd done this motif. So like I've done another motif since then, but yeah. So I measured after that one, and I have to basically do like, hold it, there we go. So this is like a full repeat, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I need to do that again to the bottom. So I've done one of these. So I've got to do 1, 2, and 3, and then ribbing, and now to the sleeves. I started with a pattern for DK weight gauge, but when I got to, I've done a little bit of short rows, a tiny bit of short rows at the back. When I got to the, you do increasing, so there's a round of increases here and a round here, and I think there's also a round here. I think I did 3 rounds of increases. And then I should have, there should have been 1 more round of increases, but I was thinking this was looking pretty big, and so I measured it and my gauge was off. So it worked because I just didn't do my 4th round of increases. My only thing is that I'm worried about is like this feels like a really, really, really big armhole. Like this to me just looks huge. So I guess I'm a little bit worried about that, but at the same time, like men tend to have like broader shoulders, so I don't think it's a bad thing to have more room in the shoulders than I would have on myself. And I have the measurement, like I've got the measurement across the chest, and this is bang on. Like this bit here is bang on the measurements. just like really worried there's too much room in them, in the sleeves, but we'll see. I can't really change it now. We'll see what happens. I need to do decreases on the sleeve. So what I've done is when I cast on for under the sleeve, I cast on a full pattern repeat, which means that hopefully I can keep the rest of the ones intact. The thing though, like if that goes down to the rest, that's still really too big. I'm now thinking, like, I was only planning to decrease 16 stitches over the thing, which would basically be this much, which would mean that this sleeve, this is how big the sleeve will be. I don't know. I'll think about that later. Maybe I'll do some more decreasing than I planned to do. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with it. I'm a bit worried about sizing, but I'm sure we'll power through and I'll be fine. I'm using more Woolyknit. Like, I paid for all, no actually the Mallard was gifted, I should have said that. The first sweater, blue yarn from Woolyknit, was gifted as part of the Kona Long. Everything else I just bought because I'm obsessed with them. So I'm using, as the background colour, the Diggle DK, which is 122 meters per 50 grams. And I originally had bought quite a lot of this yarn and I bought contrast colours, but I didn't like how they were knit up. I just thought, like, it was very primary colours, like a red and a yellow and a green, and I just didn't like it. So I'm using the 4-ply held double. This is the Celtic green and this is cinnamon. Cinnamon's like the all-time best colour. I was looking for this yesterday. Now I find it. I was actually going to put this on it. Was I going to put this on it? I think so. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that's what I'm using, and I think the colours, like, I think the colour palette is really, really strong. I think sometimes Fair Isle can look a bit dated or can look a bit old-fashioned, and I think this is still quite like a modern take on it, but it's still very clearly like old school Fair Isle. The only other thing is I have 2 rows of plains in between each motif, just because I wanted to have space I wanted to be able to do a plain round and then increase rounds before the next colour work section, so that when I was picking up stitches you can see the wrong colour, if that makes sense. So I spaced them out a little bit more, but I don't think that's too obvious. And yeah, I'm looking forward to having this finished. I'm feeling a bit disheartened by the sleeves, but I think it'll be okay. And I'm thinking now, like, I could just rapidly, like, I can decrease under the arm quite quickly. Maybe I should measure the sleeve and like under, well, maybe that's not quite the same place. I'll work something out just to give myself some confidence, I think, to finish this. The motif's really fun, it's really memorable. This one especially, like this one I can really remember. This one I have to look a little bit, and this one blows my mind. I just have to stick to the chart as I do it, but that's okay. And I really do like this, and I think I will consider making the Marit cardigan myself later in the year, because I think it's beautiful and I'd like to have one. And I think it's really nice, like, it's really enjoyable colour work. Somebody messaged me and told me they found it really difficult, like they found it not very intuitive, but so far I'm not having that problem. It's working out quite well. And I do have, like, I have stitch markers around every single repeat to make sure that I'm on track. And the other thing I was going to add is I really impressed myself with my colour work here, not to toot my own trumpet, but a year ago, like, I tried some colour work and I just couldn't make it work. Like, I just couldn't, like, I couldn't hold my yarn properly, my tension was a mess. And then I did my Maya sweater, which is, like, I think it's in the very first podcast, which was like lopey and it was chunky and it was really a little bit of colour work, and it just gave me the confidence. It really, lopey yarn also really fills the gaps in, so it like gave me a real confidence boost. But now, like, just really impressed. Like, look at this, like, my floats are amazing. Only a knitter will appreciate this. But yeah, I'm just really impressed at, like, how even my tension has been. Obviously it's not perfect, and especially where the increases are, there's some, like, a little bit of puckering, but that'll block out. And yeah, I'm gonna have so many ends to weave in when I'm finished, but I moved the beginning around to the here and afterwards. So yeah, that's my gift knit. I'm feeling good about it. I have gotten a bit distracted the past few days with some other exciting things, and so I've not worked on it in a couple of days, but hopefully maybe this weekend I should try and get a couple of repeats in. I was ahead of schedule, and I think my schedule was to do an inch a day on the body, and I'm ahead of schedule, but I think I need to not rest on my laurels because I'm going to have, yeah, I don't think I should do that. Because I need to get moving on it sooner rather than later. So as not to fall behind. Okay, new whips. I have 3 new whips. I'll just do them in the order I cast them on in. So, my next one is not even knitting, it's crochet. What? It's in this bag, which I got from Tribe Yarns. I had intended for this to be like just an open bag that would sit next to my chair and I would keep all my projects in here. But of course I'm knitting, well, I'm crocheting a big thing. And so I needed the whole bag. So 2 pieces of context before this whip. Firstly, Mega of the Skeins of Dreams podcast is running a Mal make along, which is the Blankets of Dreams Mal. And everyone's taking part and I had FOMO, so I'm taking part. So I'm making a blanket. The second thing is that I bought yarn probably a year ago to make a blanket and I need to get it out of stash. Like, it's so much yarn, it's like 20 skeins of yarn. And let me talk about that first. So the yarn is Stylecraft DK, which is an acrylic DK weight yarn and a huge range of colours. I think acrylic's the way to go with a lot of blankets. I would love a 100% wool blanket, and like I should be keeping my scraps to do that because I think that'd be amazing. But acrylic, it can go in the wash. It's cheap. I think it fits the bill a lot. So I bought loads of this yarn with the intention of making a blanket, and let me show you the progress I made with that. This was maybe 100 hours of work. I'm not even kidding. This took me so long. This was like, I crocheted every day for like a month, and it took me like 6 hours just to see them all together. It's beautiful, like it's really, it's stunning. This is I think it's sunburst pattern. I should have said before all this, I'm not a crocheter. I can follow the steps and I can crochet something, but my brain doesn't understand how crochet works particularly. So yeah, it's a sunburst pattern. Why did this take me so long? So a couple of things. You change colour like 4 times and I just found that really annoying and challenging. I didn't know at the time how to crochet over your ends, which I've now learned. So I had like ends everywhere. And each one of these is a different stitch. So there's like a circle, and then one of these is puff stitch, and one of these is a cluster stitch, and then around it you've got like, I don't even know what these are, but these were all different. So I was like, it wasn't intuitive, and I was like tied to this pattern as I was going. And it just wasn't very joyful, like I wasn't feeling it. And then I seamed it all together. And I mean, this is 30 squares. And yeah, I think it's beautiful, but I'm not finishing the blanket. What I might do, this could become a lap blanket. I have like maybe a handful of other squares in a bag somewhere that I could finish. And if I've got scraps left over from what I'm actually doing, I think I'll put the scraps into making more of these. And it might just become a lap blanket and I'll give it to a child at some point. A child. I don't know what child, but I don't know. If someone I know has a baby, maybe they'll get it. So that was sitting for ages, but I wasn't feeling it. But I want to get this yarn out of stash because it's 20 skeins of yarn. It's so much yarn. I don't need to have it sitting around. And it'd be nice to have a blanket. Like, I'm up for making a blanket, and now Mega ran a make along, and now I'm motivated to do it. So, decided a blanket. So this is, it's not quite a made up pattern. I'm completely copying TY Yarn Crafts, who I believe is like the goat of crochet. Like, she has like 160k followers on Instagram and makes amazing things. And she shared her 2022 temperature blanket that she's making, and it's made in linen stitch, which is what these are made in. Well, this is made in. The pattern for that is not releasing until the end of 2020, so like January next year. But I'm always like, I'm impatient. But what she has done is she's shared how she's made it, basically. Like, she's done some videos and some bits and pieces about it. So I researched how to do the linen stitch, and then I'm following her. She's got a tutorial on how to join like neighbouring squares, and that's what I'll be doing for the next stage. So what I've done so far is like the first strip. So I don't know how I'm going to show you all of these. Ta-da! So this is kind of where we're at. It's like a very cool scarf. There we go, that's quite a good way of seeing it. I mean, you can't see me, but you can see this. I'm ridiculous. This is why I don't like anyone being home when I film, because I just do silly things like this. So I'm basically treating them as like packs of 2, so like a 1 and 2, a 1, 2, so like the neutral and the colour. And I weighed out how much, I'm holding two strands together of the colour, and I worked out I can do 12 squares of every colour. And so I think I'm doing 6 by 4. Does that make sense? I'm not entirely sure. I drew it out on my iPad with like which colour goes where. So yeah, I'm basically doing 6 by 4-ish, and so like this one I started a new row, so this is like green and pink, and then here's the green and pink, and the next one the colours will go like diagonally across the blanket. I don't know how to do like a border or anything. I've not thought that far in advance. So this is the first strip, and now what I'm going to try and do, I don't know if I'm going to do this. What I want to do now is I'm going to pick up a chain, like I'm going to pick up here, I'm going to chain out, and I'm going to start doing the linen stitch, and I'm going to follow the tutorial for how to join each one as I go. It's 12 stitches across, and I don't know how many, I just did it until it was a square, and then you just join the next colour. And what I will say is, I noticed this yesterday, I tried to film yesterday and it didn't work very well. But my tension got so much tighter. Like this is, you can see like it's quite drapey and it's quite soft and like floppy. This, by comparison, is like solid. Like I can mould this because of how tight my tension is. So I need to remind myself to just relax a little bit, I think. I don't know why I was doing that. There's not been, I was checking my stitch count the whole way to make sure I wasn't dropping stitches. But yeah, I just think I need to chill out a little bit. So that is where I'm at with this. I don't think it's going to make any significantly speedy process, and I will decide how often to show it. I'm going to start, I think I need to do like, I'm going to start going this way now. So I've got the full length done, and I'm going to start working on the depth. So I'll decide when to keep showing it. The make along is a year long. I guess I'd like to have it finished by like in a couple of months. I don't want it to just sit around for ages and ages. And I'm having good fun with it. It's very low pressure, and I guess I was kind of doing like 2 squares a day, but I've not done any in a couple of days because I wanted to show it in its current state, like when it was a whole strip. The other thing I wanted to talk about was my crochet hook. I had a couple of crochet hooks that I've been using for knitting in like small sizes, but I decided to make a 6 mil. I don't know why I decided 6 mil. I got a 6 mil one. I ordered it from Amazon. Okay, so this is it. And I was of course drawn to the fact that it has this like mermaid print, but this is like someone's done this with polymer clay, and they've just like rolled it out and then like squished it over a metal hook. Like I think I could get someone's, maybe it's not quite fingerprint. Yeah, I can see someone's fingerprint in this. Which kind of gives me the heebie-jeebie, like it's, you can see like at the top there, it's really messy added on. Just around like a cheap metal hook, I think. And it kind of would give me the heebie-jeebies. I don't know why, there's something weird about like someone else's like DNA being on it. But it's really ergonomic, like I'm really enjoying working with it. So, would not recommend. So yeah, that's my second. I think what I thought is like I would do a blanket and then I would make all these granny squares, and they'd be really portable in the summer, and then I could just make little granny squares and then I could make it all into one blanket. But of course I'm now, like I'm doing like a join as you go, so it's going to end up being huge, and I'm going to be, at some point I'm going to be crocheting on it and it's going to be giant, but that's a problem for future Rebecca to worry about. Okay, on to the next one, number 4. When I finished my shawl, I forgot what it was called. When I finished my shawl, I mentioned before in the podcast that I really like having like a simple project and a more complicated project at the same time. Because for example, if I'm in work meetings, like I like to just knit in the round and plain stockinette, or even knit flat and stockinette, but like no pattern to follow. And so when I finished my shawl, I had no stockinette, like plain stockinette project. And I wanted to cast something on. I've got something else to show that I've cast on, and I was very excited for the yarn to arrive for that. But I wanted to like use the couple of days before the yarn arrived to cast on something to the stage where it was just stockinette afterwards. This yarn I've had in stash for ages. I bought it. Okay, let me show the project first. So this is the project. It looks so funny. This is the Sunday sweater by Petite Knit. It is a, oh, this is what I wanted the cord for. It's a top-down pattern, and it's done with like a knit pearl design, where the knits and pearls like they radiate out and get like they get bigger, so it's not just like ribbing, it kind of like grows. I've had this in my library for ages. It's unfortunately one of Petite Knit's patterns that she did before she started making her pattern size inclusive, so it only goes up to a 3XL, which is silly because it's around, like, this could very, very simply be graded to bigger sizes. Like, it's nothing super complicated. It's just a round yoke sweater, but I don't think she's really gone back and like done a lot of the old catalogue. There we go, put it onto a cable and you can see it a little bit better. There we go. This yarn, there are two yarns I'm holding together. This is Drop's Flora, which is like a 65% alpaca, 35% wool. No, other way around, sorry, that's, I can't remember which one that is, that's a different blend. This one is the mostly wool, 65% wool, 35% alpaca. And then this is Drop's Melody, which is like a chunky, it's alpaca and wool. Maybe there's some polyamide in there. I bought this yarn a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, when I just started getting into garment knitting, and like all I wanted to do was knit chunky knits because they were really fast, and like a lot of people on Instagram made them, despite them being not remotely wearable. And I bought that for this, and then I cast on and I hated it. It's really hard to work with. It's super fluffy, and so all I can ever see is like the next stitch on my needle. Like I can't see further than that. And I was doing like a pattern, I think I was doing the Kelowna sweater by Goodnight Day, and it had this like pearl design, and I couldn't see the pearls, and I was just finding it really stressful. Like I was not enjoying the process a single bit. So I unraveled it, moved on to another project, and the yarn has been sitting in stash since then, and I just want it out of stash. Like I want it knitted up and I want it gone so that I don't feel guilty about it anymore. I don't really have any issue with buying yarn. Like I'm not really guilty about adding to my stash, but I do want there to be like a cyclical element to it. Like I don't really want something to sit there for a year. Like I want it to come in, it can sit around for a little bit while I'm thinking what to make with it, and it can go into the queue and I can have a plan for it. But yeah, this was just sitting there and like looking at me, and I wanted to knit it up. So I decided to pair it with a strand of like regular wool in the hope that it would make it easier to work with. And I don't know if I've become a better knitter or if it's become easier. Like I'm not sure where the line is there. But it's definitely become less challenging. But that could be me not to. Oh, I pulled the stitches out. I should not have put this on this cable while I was just muddling with it. But this is the other thing. Like I've dropped stitches, and now trying to find the stitch to get it back on is a nightmare. So when I had this yarn, I went onto Ravelry and I looked at all the projects it's been used in, and there was a real, like, I want something super simple. I wanted it top down. I didn't want to have to pick up any stitches really, other than maybe under the sleeve. I just didn't want to have to do, like, I wanted it to be really just increase and knit and bind off because I think it's really tricky to work with. So this pattern was what I had in mind for quite a long time, and it's just never been like the shiny new thing. I keep pulling it. Yeah, see, I've just dropped stitches, and I don't know if I'll find these again. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, I should just edit these bits out. It was always on my to-do list, but just wasn't at the top of my to-do list, and I'd finished that, and I feel like I'm trying to get, like, I was in a good momentum of getting through things, and I don't really have anything plain. I've got a no frills to do on somewhere on my mental list, and I've got a DRK everyday sweater, But for some reason I just thought, right, I'm just gonna make this sweater. I also can really see it in my wardrobe, like I can mentally picture what I want to wear it with, which I think always helps. And yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it and just having it to wear. I think I'll still have some of the yarn left. I think I have bought 8 skeins or something, and I don't think it's going to use that many. But I don't think I'll have a huge amount left. Maybe I'll have to make a hat or something. Anyway, very fluffy woolen alpaca mix. It's going to be way too warm to wear in the sun. But I'm hoping there is Scotland. There will be some not so warm days, I'm sure, before summer hits. And I can see where it fits my wardrobe, which will be good. I'm not super enthused about it. I'm not like, I'm so excited about this next project, but I am enjoying it. I'm looking forward to having plain stockinette to work on, and I'm looking forward to having the finished object, and I'm looking forward to having it out of stash. So those all tick the box. And I was going to say something else. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, the sleeves in the pattern, you increase the sleeves and then there's like a bell shape. I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna knit it until it's, I'm just gonna knit until, like, knit straight and then bubble, like rapid decrease, and then knit the cuff. So it should still have like a similar effect, but I don't really want like big balloon sleeves on it. I think I'm happy with just having straight sleeves. Well, not straight sleeves, but like, I don't want like a big bell shape, but I like a kind of gradual, a little. Okay, on to my final whip. A brand new whip. I filmed this podcast yesterday and the yarn had just arrived. I filmed yesterday, but I was feeling a bit weird and it was very negative. I don't know why I was feeling so negative, and then I was dreading editing it because I thought, I don't know why, so I thought, you know what, just film it again tomorrow. So we're back and filming again, but the yarn arrived yesterday morning, and so the whole podcast that I filmed yesterday, I talk about this yarn as being an acquisition, but I cast on. So my last whip, a little bit of context. I knit a cardigan last year, which I made up the design for. It was a cable knit design, and I was a very new knitter and I couldn't find what I was looking for, and I still haven't seen that, to be honest. Like, I haven't seen the pattern since. I don't think I was just looking in the wrong place. So I knit it up and wore it to death for like 6 months. I loved it so much, and then I got better at knitting and realised like there were some issues with it. Like, there's no shaping, so the fit was a bit wonky, and I seamed it, which I don't think I'd choose to seam a cardigan now. So anyway, a whole host of things, and I decided one of my goals for this year was to re-knit the pattern and to write it up with the potential of like releasing it as a pattern. I really like to learn things, and I just thought that releasing a pattern would be a really interesting way of learning the whole process of what it means to be part of the knitting community, kind of see it from all different angles. I've also been very vocal about size inclusivity, and I just thought it would be good of me to understand the process of what it means to go through grading a pattern to multiple sizes. Like, I can't really criticise until I've done it, right? So that was the plan. I started knitting that cardigan, and I just think it would have been really challenging to grade as a first pattern. It's just all over cables, and so where you have like, there was no, I think a lot of cable knit sweaters, you have things like double moss stitch or moss stitch to like fill the gaps, like under the arms, for example, or a panel in the middle, and that makes it much easier to make it fit for various sizes. But this is just cables, and so I think it would take a lot more like mental gymnastics to grade it out. So then I parked the idea, and that cardigan has been cast on, and I plan to finish it at some point in my life. Like, it's there and I'll knit it. But I just lost a bit of excitement on it because I was like, oh, I'm not, like, my goal was to write it, grade it, release it, like test it, do that whole process, and learn from it. So I kind of lost I was like, right, fine, I've lost the idea. And then more recently I was playing around, and I had an idea for another cardigan which I decided to knit up, and like, this has kind of replaced that one with the concept of I'd like to knit this into a pattern and try to write it up and try to run the whole process. I don't think I have any intentions of becoming a full-time knitwear designer. I love my job. I have a lot of career aspirations within my 9 to 5, and I think that like, I have a lot of respect for people who do go down the designer path. I guess I want to dabble, semi-professional, like keep my 9 to 5, and then maybe, you know, if I enjoy the process, I could do it again in the future. But like, there's no pressure or no goals for me in terms of knitwear design, other than like this one pattern, to see what it's like and to learn from the process. And what was I gonna say? Oh, and I really like to knit other people's patterns. And I think that when you start designing, you lose, I think you're just overrun with ideas that you always want to cast on your own next thing. And I don't want that to be me. Like, I'd like to keep knitting other, like, I love knitwear design. Like, I love knitwear, like knitting patterns. So I'd love to be able to, I don't want it to consume my knitting, I guess, that's what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, I'm designing a pattern. Ta-da! So I kind of felt a bit weird, like, what do I show? It's a WIP, I want to show the process, but I also feel like it feels like a very vulnerable area. Like, I don't, like, I'm gonna make mistakes and I have to rip back and maybe it won't work out. So it feels a bit weird showing it. And also there's this weird, I don't know if this is like a designer thing or a me thing, but like, as soon as I have an idea, I'm like, oh, you have to get it out really quickly, because what if someone else has that idea? People have been designing patterns for years. Like, they're gonna have the same, there's nothing I'm doing that's unique. I'm very aware of that. So I need to just kind of accept that, I think. But it does feel a bit weird sharing it because it's so new to me. I don't know, I'm rambling. I'm just gonna talk about it like it's a WIP, because that's what I know and love. So let me talk about the yarn. So I've made very, very minimal beginnings. It's a cardigan. It's knit from the bottom up, and it is, the intention is that it's a very like delicate, quite a feminine cardigan that's quite like airy and open, a little bit vintage inspired, and of course it has cables, because I love cables. So this is what I have so far. Basically nothing. I mean, I started this yesterday. This yarn is Filcolana or Ozetta and Filcolana Tilia. I got both from Simona and Knit. I'm dropping the one I've got, but I've got some more here. So this is the Ozetta, and this is the Mohair. And what I will say is, I think it knits up darker than the two skeins look individually. Like, this arrived and I was like, I wanted like a periwinkle blue, and I thought this was a very pastel blue. But when I think when it knits up, I think this is periwinkle. I don't know if I'm imagining things, but I think it knits up darker than it is. So a couple of notes. It's lace and cables, so it blocks out very differently. I'll show you a swatch in a second. And the other thing is, I did proper knitting and purling for my ribbing, which you might be like, what do you mean you did proper knitting and purling? Oh, I can't reach it. Anyway, I am a combination knitter, which means that I wrap my knits and purls two different ways, and almost always it makes absolutely no difference in my knitting. It makes it slightly harder to read some patterns sometimes, and it makes a difference for things like increases, well, really only decreases, I think. Like knit two togethers, I have to reorientate the stitches. But the one thing where it does make quite an obvious difference is ribbing flat. Ribbing in the round is much neater, I think, than one by one, but ribbing flat it's a bit wonky. So I painstakingly, it took me ages, did this ribbing properly. I normally just pick my purl stitch and I wrapped it the right way, which just felt very alien to me, and my hands hurt afterwards actually. But yeah, so I did I just think it looks so neat, which is probably says something about my normal ribbing, or my normal ribbing in the flat anyway. And so I've done that, and I've done like, what, maybe 2 inches of the pattern. I love this colour. I really, really love this colour. This might just be a cardigan for me. It might not go anywhere else in the world, but I'm really enjoying it. It is quite heavy going. Like the lace work is fine, but the cables are, I think there's like 30 cables. So I've been working a little bit on, I did this for like, I worked on it last night and for maybe like an hour this morning when I had my coffee. But I'm currently using a cable, well, I've got a cable needle, and I'm kind of switching between cabling without a needle and cabling with the needle. I think if I can crack cabling without the needle, it'll go much faster. But I do feel a little bit tied to it right now. So let me show you the swatch, because that's probably more accurate. So this is the swatch. And so it has this like, it's probably not very, it's not very, I mean the swatch is just for my own measurements, but it's not a very aesthetically pleasing colour. Like, it's not a bad colour, but it's not very good to show it. So it has this like eyelet lace and it has this little 4 cable. I tried using a mock cable because I thought a mock cable might be more quicker to knit, like you're not tied to cables, but I thought this is so much prettier. And it's just this like beautiful, like drapey, fluffy fabric. Are you excited? I'm excited. So very preliminary, of course, like I've not even knit the cardigan. It's called the Cathy cardigan or the Cathy Cardi. My grandmother was very creative and very crafty and her name was Cathy. And so it's the Cathy Cardi and it is my work in progress that I'm currently obsessed with. And yeah, I'm currently just going to knit until I get to the like under the arms and then all the shaping will start. I will say, like, I felt much more confident in designing this week because I knew I could get I knew I can get the pattern the way I want the pattern to look whilst also getting shaping. Like I know I can nail that knitting it bottom up. I could do it top down to be fair as well, but anyway, that's what I decided to do. I also just wanted to get like confident with the pattern and start with this big chunk of pattern at the bottom. But casting on, I think I had to use like 3mm needles and doing ribbing to start, flat ribbing. I was just sick of it. So I'm really excited now that I'm into the ribbing. I want to just stop filming now and keep knitting this. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to do this. I don't know how long the process is going to take. I don't really know how that's going to go, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm finding it really engaging. I will say, I feel like a floodgate has been opened because as soon as I convinced myself, like I was like, you have one design in your brain. It's that one cardigan you knit last year, that's it. But I feel like very inspired right now. And again, I think that's just how creativity works. But like I have 100 ideas that have all appeared in the past like 3 days. So I need to just calm down and work on this one. And yeah. So keep an eye out, I guess. I don't think it'll be done for, I mean, it's on it's 3.5mm needles. It's like a 24 stitch gauge. So, but it is cabling and lace. So I don't think it's going to be done anytime very soon. But of course, if I'm happy with what comes out the other end, then I will be grading it up and sending it to an editor and getting it tested and maybe releasing it into the world if people like to knit it. So yeah, I feel very weird about this bar. I don't know if I'm coming across that way, but I just feel a bit silly. I don't know why. I'm very passionate about it and I'm really, really enjoying it. And I think whenever you create something and put it out in the world, it feels a bit like the first time I filmed the podcast, right? Like I put it out there being like, will anyone like this? I guess that's kind of exactly how I feel about this, like about this cardigan. But I'm just reminding myself that worst case, I end up with more skills. Medium case, I end up with a cardigan that I like, that I never knit for anyone else and it just becomes part of my wardrobe. And best case, it's something which I produce into a pattern and other people get to knit. So yeah, that's where we're at with that one. Bit weird. But yeah, this is my Cathy Cardi. These colours I think look so interesting together. And it's going to be this like lacy pattern. I'm going to stop talking about it because it's making me feel a bit weird and nervous. Okay, last up is some acquisitions. So I do have some acquisitions. Let me just put that away. There we go. So 2 sets of acquisitions. The first thing is it came in a paper bag. I feel that will be indicative to many people. So this is Nutidin or Nutidin or Nutidin. I don't really know which one it is. This is yarn. It's unspun yarn from Sweden and it's like a small flock indie dyed yarn, kind of. Like the colours they get are incredible. It's dyed when it's before it's, I mean, it's not really spun, it's unspun, but it's still in like thread, like it's still in strands. That's what I'm looking for. But it's dyed before that happens, and so you get like amazing colours. So the colours, so there are 2 things about Nutidin which I love, or 2 things that make it very unique. I don't know if I love it, but 2 things that make it very unique that I knew it for. One was the colours that are really unique and interesting, and I've seen a lot of like really stunning like pearlescent whites and like deep rich oranges and yeah, really good colours. And the second is they have a very interesting marketing strategy that really, they release in batches, and so it creates a bit of a hype and a bit of excitement and a sense of exclusivity, and so you kind of feel like, I was totally suckered into this. Like, I definitely felt the pressure, like, oh, there's some new left, I should get some, because maybe I'll never get some ever again. So I fell into the hype, basically. So it is, okay, let's talk about what I'm talking about. Price point. The yarn itself is not particularly expensive. It came in 300 gram, it came in a bag of 300 grams, which has a bunch of plates inside. There's like one stick at the top, but it basically came like packaged up, and there's 300 grams of fibre in here. And it varies batch to batch how much fibre, how the yardage of it, but Ravelry estimates it's about 500 meters, or maybe it's 500 yards, per 100 grams. So you get about 1500, at least like 1,000 meters plus of yardage. And I think it cost about £35. That in itself was not particularly expensive, but then the shipping was maybe another £12, and so then it suddenly became like £46, £47. So it ended up being like almost £50 for this 300 grams, which by comparison to other things in the market is not necessarily very expensive. But the thing which then pushes the price up is that you generally are recommended to knit it together with something else. So because it's unspun, it's very, very, it's a very delicate fibre. You can see that it just pulls right off because there's no twist or spin in this. It's just fibre, which is very light and fluffy and can be very soft, but it's not, it can also be quite strong when it's knitted up, but it's not super strong. And especially this, I knitted with Pluto before, and with Lopi, it has very long fibres, whereas this is quite short. These fibres are really short. So I really think that I don't think this will knit up very strong, just a single strand. So you can do two things. You can hold it double, or you can hold it with a strand of something else. So, and obviously both of those things then push the price up, because either you have to buy twice as much knitted in, or you have to buy a skein of something else. So I showed last week my V-neck Bina sweater, and for that I used Woolyknit British wool and Filcolana Tilia in like the slate grey colour, and I had 2 skeins of this left, so I ordered 2 more skeins of this. So my plan is to hold this together with the knitted in. I will say, like, I don't have any regrets about buying this. It's incredibly soft, and I just in general think it's interesting to knit with like new and cool fibres. Like, everyone's talking about it. I want to know what the hype is about. It is so soft. Where Plutolopi is, it's much rougher. It almost feels like, the Plutolopi feels a bit like coated, and this just feels like soft as a pillow. I can't wear Lopi next to skin. I have to wear a t-shirt under it. I could wear this comfortably next to skin. Like, I could sleep on this. It's very, very soft. I'm pretty sure this is an undyed colourway, and that's the only thing I slightly regret is I wasn't patient enough to wait for an interesting colourway. There's nothing wrong with this colour, like, I don't dislike it, but I think the thing that really Knitwear really has going for it are its incredible colours, and I think I missed an opportunity there to get my hands on some of those colours. So yeah, I am planning to knit I was going to knit the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers. Is it Christophers? Is it Christoffers? I'm inclined to say it's Christoffers, but I don't really know. I was going to knit that, but I kind of have this rule for myself that, like, patterns going forward that I'm buying, I'm trying to support designers that are making size inclusive patterns. I have some in my library, like old petite knit ones, which aren't as inclusive, and I've just kind of accepted that in this interest of saving money, I'm just going to use those patterns. But in terms of purchasing new ones, I want to support some more size inclusive designers. And the Felix cardigan is not particularly inclusive. It goes up, it only has 5 sizes, and the maximum is a 57-inch bust, which I was a bit like, oh, I don't know why I thought it was more inclusive. I guess it's a bit of a cult classic, and I assumed it went to more sizes, but it doesn't, which is weird. So I'm going back to Old Faithful, and I'm going back to petite knit. And petite knit has a cardigan called the Novice Cardigan Chunky, I think, which is I think it's a DK, I think it's a worsted weight, so it's DK has with mohair, and that's what I'm going to make. I don't know when I'm going to make this. I have a lot of grey on my needles right now. I've got my Sunday, well, I have my Sunday sweater, and then I just finished the Beanie V-neck, and then I have this to make a cardigan, and then I also have, I also have Raw Work DK in dark grey to make a DRK everyday sweater. So I feel like for the next few months I'm just going to have continuously a dark grey item on my to make list. Last summer I tried to knit with Potalopi in the summer, and it almost like I can physically remember what it felt like to try and knit that. It was disgusting. It was so sticky and so hot and so disgusting. So I'm not really sure if I should try and cast this on sooner rather than later, so at least I'm like, it's before summer, or if I should wait and cast on in September, or like when the weather starts to turn in Scotland. We'll see. Okay, and then my last set of acquisitions, I definitely got something in my eyes are struggling today. I keep getting stuff in them. I think I keep getting stuff in them. Anyway. Okay, so my last thing is that last weekend I went to the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase in Perth in Scotland. It was organised by the same, I was going to say the same people, the same person, the one woman show behind Perth Festival of Yarn. And I will admit that before I went I didn't really engage with the purpose of the show. Like I just was like, oh, yarn, let's go. But when I was there and talking to people, it was I just found it a really eye-opening day, really eye-opening experience. I guess at a lot of yarn shows, the star of those shows is often like fancy hand-dyed yarn, like beautiful colours that you've been seeing on Instagram for months, and there's been a giveaway and there's hype and there's excitement about it, and they're inspired by this mood board or by this concept, and that's amazing. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's like a whole art form in its own. But what often get overshadows at shows like that are like the wool itself, and like the people making the wool, or the people working to produce the wool that's there. And I think it was put in such an interesting way that like a lot of the time these are farmers who don't have access, like they don't have time to update their Instagram and share, you know, a day in the life, and to to run campaigns and to take arty photos, because what they're ultimately doing is spending a lot of their time outdoors caring for their flock and for their sheep, and working really hard to make sure that Scottish wool continues to be produced and to the standard it's been produced to. And so this is all about celebrating those people, the people who are making the yarn, and some of it was beautifully dyed, like there's nothing against that hand-dyed yarn, but it was really about like the origins and the people behind the wool. There was an incredible talk that I went to by, I can't remember her name, the woman who runs Lammermuir Wool, which is a flock or a brand of wool from a flock of sheep between here and Dunbar, which is where I grew up. So it felt like very close to home. It's only maybe 20 minutes, I guess, from Edinburgh, and they're just really committed to like making this incredible, like she works 3 other jobs because producing wool isn't really profitable. Like you can break even just about, and they're just completely at the whim of so many things. Like, will my bag of fibre get delivered to the mill this year? Like some years it hasn't been delivered, and will the shearer do a good job of shearing my sheep to make sure that I get the most, like the best wool from it and stuff. So I just thought it was really, really, really interesting to hear, and I just felt very inspired. I felt very connected. I was honestly ready to go and like sign my boyfriend up to like take over a flock of sheep by the end of the day. I was so into it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I shared a little bit about Lammermuir Wool, which is the one that I definitely spoke to me. They have a newsletter you can sign up to, and you can go and see a bit more about what they're doing. But generally everyone that was there was I was really, really impressed. I could have bought from every single stall, which I think said a lot about, I think a lot of the time at yarn festivals, that's not how you feel about everywhere you go. It was small, like there were maybe 12 stalls. But like every single one I felt was offering something really special, which was really cool. I'm going to go into what I got. And then I can talk a little bit about the day. But in terms of the Perth Festival of Yarn, there's a Perth is I think the biggest yarn festival in Scotland, and it is in September. There are not tickets on sale yet, but the dates are set. So if you're interested in going, it's like a 90-minute train from Edinburgh, and I think about the same from Glasgow. So you could always, if you're not a local, you could always pair it with an amazing trip to Scotland. So I'll talk about what I got, and then I'll talk a little bit about the day. So I got quite a lot of yarn, I really did, but that's okay. So let me talk first about what I went with the intention of buying. This is what I bought and I plan to buy. This is the Kinross 4-ply. It is lamb's wool. It is 205 meters per 50 grams. It's from Wee County Yarns, 100% wool, spun in Scotland by Todd and Duncan. And this is the colourway Porridge. It's like a warm cream. Like, yeah, that's pretty much bang on, like a warm cream colour. I bought some of this yarn from Beautiful Knitters in London, so yarn shop in London, back when I did a yarn shop crawl in London. I bought 2 skeins of their dark grey, and when it washes up, it becomes almost fluffy. It's stunning. It's so soft. It's incredibly, incredibly soft. They had a swatch there, and the swatch completely sold me on the yarn. And I've been toying with the idea of making a fingering weight sweater for a while, and I especially feel like I need a lightweight neutral sweater in my wardrobe. So this is going to become a cozy classic raglan light. The words were like swimming in my brain there. So that's what this is going to become. I'm kind of torn because on the one hand, I think it would be good to have now to be able to wear now. Like, I think in the next few months this is going to be perfect to wear. On the other hand, I think this would be perfect to be knitting on when it's warm because it's so lightweight. So I don't know when I'll cast this on, but I'd like to have it this year. Like, I'd like to either be working on it or to be wearing it over summer. Yeah, this wasn't crazy expensive. It was, I think, £7 something per skein. So it cost just under, I think it would be cost £36 total. Be £38 total, which I think is really reasonably priced. Yeah, I was super impressed with it, and I'm really excited to be casting on with this, especially because I felt that swatch. Like, that swatch is in my brain. I remember it. Like, I know what it was like. I know what it felt like. I want that in a sweater. Okay, my next, I have no plans for. I left that talk with Lammermuir Wool, and I was just like, I need to buy something from them. Like, I need to support them. They need to know I care. So I got some mini skeins. These are 20 grams each. This is their Simply Shetland DK mini skein. They're not very, there's only 60 meters per each, but I think this would make a really, like, I'm going to save these for next autumn, and I think they would make a really nice contrast colour in a hat or in a pair of mitts or something. It's funny because yesterday when I filmed this, I wore a different sweater, and I was like, this would make such a good sweater, and now I'm here, I'm like, yes, it would make a good sweater. It's pretty close. They only have dyed up minis dyed up. They don't have like full skeins dyed up. But if they were to do full skeins, I'd totally buy this colour because I think it's amazing. So this is Glengaren's colour. This one is, I don't know if it's Jean or Jean is Gean. I don't know what that means. And then this one is Milbury. And they're all just really interesting. Yeah, so no plans, but that's okay. And the last one I think is super interesting. These are from the Border Mill. I have 3 skeins of this. The skeins are falling apart, so I'm going to try and show you one of the ones that's not falling apart. This is the Border Mill Alpaca Rose 4-ply. 50% alpaca and 50% rose fibre. So it's kind of similar to how they process bamboo. The stems get like flattened and there's those like fibrous bits in it, and that gets spun. And this is just like, you can see the drape on it just by me holding the skein. It's silky soft. It's incredibly soft and incredibly drapey. And so yeah, I thought this would make a really good substitute for something that would otherwise be have silk in it. It's 175 meters per 50 grams. So I have, what is that, like 600 and something meters? No, just under that. 525 meters. So I think I could make a camisole with this quite readily. I was really on the fence about what colour to get. They had a lot of beautiful colours, but I wanted something neutral I could wear a lot. But also I ordered that yarn from Knitting for Olive, and the colour of it really washed me out. This might, to be fair, but I'm looking forward to knitting it up. I will say summer patterns are like, what's going on there? I think it's gonna be my first summer as like a proper knitter. Like, I was knitting last summer, but I definitely took a bit of a hiatus over the summer, I think. I did do some knitting. Like, I always had a project on the go, but I wasn't like as obsessive as I am now. And this summer, I'm just thinking, like, what am I going to be knitting on? Because I feel like either patterns are not that cute, or if they're nice, they come in like 2 sizes. Like, what is this all about? Are there other designers with nice summer patterns other than like Jessie Made? That's basically all I'm seeing that I really like. A lot of my favourite things, knitwear patterns, like the camisole number 2s and stuff, are in like 2 sizes. So that's not great. So I have quite a lot of summer yarn actually. I've got a couple of bits of DK, and I have one pattern in stash which I used like 3 times last year, and I'll definitely make another one of those. But I do think I need to be finding other things in it because excitement, variation. So yeah, any good designers for summer patterns that aren't... I find a lot of summer patterns are really, really frumpy. So something that's not frumpy, but also size inclusive. But yeah, in terms of the day itself, I had such a good day out last Saturday. I went with, so there that I know of, there are 2 like knit nights in Edinburgh. There's one on a Monday, which is the one I go to, which is originally run by like Ginger Twist Studio, and now I think it's kind of grown its own arms and legs and done its own thing, and I love that. Like, it's not a huge group, like there may be 10 of us, but I have a lot of fun with that. And there's a craft night on a Thursday that's run by Zakami, which is a hand-dyed indie dyer who recently, well, not recently, like before me, moved to Edinburgh. I think the end of last year moved to Edinburgh, and they run a craft night on a Thursday. So I crashed that group for the day. Some people from my knit were going, but they were going at like different times, so I just like crashed the other group. So I met with... I also was a co-crasher. I also crashed with Alex of Ancestral Craft. Like, the 2 of us just like tagged along with that group. So we met in Edinburgh Waverley, the train station, and got the train up together, and then we went for some lunch, and then we went to the festival, and then came back. And of the group that went, I'd met Alex before. She came to my Monday knit night, and I met Ode before, who also had come to my Monday knit night. And then there was Melanie, who is behind Zakami Yarns, and then 2 new knitters to me, one called Vicky and one I believe called Alison. And she, Alison, is the founder of Marit magazine, which is a like very, very cool crochet magazine that do a lot of photography. Well, they're based in Scotland, so a lot of the photography is here. That is just like gone from like strength to strength. I think there weren't really any widespread, very like modern crochet magazines, and so she crowdfunded for it and then produced it. And I think they have their 3rd edition out right now, and they're getting designs in for their 4th. So yeah, and I was picking her brains all about it. I was like, why did you decide to do it? And like, what is it all about? And tell me more. So that was really interesting. And yeah, we got the train up together, and then we went to some wandering, we went to the talk, and then a few people went for coffee, but I had to get back into town, as did Alex. So we got, actually it's quite funny because we live quite close together, so we got like the train back to Edinburgh, and then we got the bus back to our area of Edinburgh, and then we both went to the same Tesco supermarket to get groceries for dinner. So we like got the whole way back home together, which was quite fun. And yeah, it was just a really nice day. I also saw Woman for my knit night, she was there, and then I also saw lovely Amy Palco, who was then off to watch her daughter in a performance up in Dundee. So yeah, I just had a really, really nice day. It was just, I really felt like I was part of something. I felt like I was part of a community. I often feel like I'm part of a community online, But this, I don't know, I felt like I contributed to something by being there, and I felt very close to it. Yeah, I really liked it. I had such a good day. I am really excited for Perth in September. One of my friends has suggested that we go to Greece for a holiday, and has suggested those dates, and I don't really know how to tell him, like, I don't want to go to a yacht in Greece because I want to go to a yarn festival in Perth. But I will, I do, like, that's what I want to do, so I need to somehow work out how to convince him that's what I'm planning to do, and we should change our dates for Greece. But yeah, it was such a nice day. I'm super impressed with all the work that went in. I was so impressed with the concept, and I'm excited to be part of it moving forward. And yeah, that's all for me. It's a Friday today. I'm going to take myself out. I think this afternoon I've got that yarn cone to go and deliver. I might go and get some lunch, or maybe go out for a coffee this afternoon. I'm thinking I might go and take my footage and my laptop and go and edit the podcast in a cafe somewhere, get some nice coffee. And yeah, my boyfriend is away for a week. I mentioned before that his parents are moving back to New Zealand, and so he's gone down to help pack up some stuff and to say goodbye, because his dad is leaving first and his mum is leaving in a few months. Month, I don't think they really know when she's leaving. She's leaving once everything else is sorted. So he's gone down to help out with them for a weekend, and well, for a week. And I feel a bit lost. That sounds ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's our first weekend since we moved into the flat that we're not together, so I feel a bit weird. And so far I've just been obsessively knitting, which is not massively different to what I do the rest of the time. But I'm thinking I might go visit my grandmother on Sunday. She lives over on the west coast. I've not seen her for a while, so I think I might do that. And I think I might do some sewing. I have fabric on the way that I was really hoping would arrive today, so I could start sewing, like cut it all out tonight and then sew all day tomorrow, like just have a bit of a marathon sewing day. But I think I might wait, and I don't know, maybe I'll cut it out tonight. I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyway, that's pure ramblings for me. I've got lots of sewing, lots of knitting. It's been a quieter week at work, and work's going to pick up next week, but it is a meetings heavy week next week, so probably lots of knitting time while my meetings are on. And I think that's everything. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope I got to keep you company whilst you were knitting, or I don't know, I put podcasts on all the time when I'm tidying up and doing the dishes and knitting and whatever. I hope I kept you company with whatever you were doing. And have a good few weeks, and I will see you later on in April. Bye.